This is a quick installation guide to Loop. Loop is the most basic HCL system available to iPhone users. You'll need an iPhone 7 or newer, Omnipod Eros pump, Orange Link, Dexcom, and Rapid Insulin. You must have TestFlight on your phone to run and install Loop. Make sure you turn on Apple Health. When you install Loop, this is your main page. Top panel, midsection, bottom panel. On the top panel, you'll see your Loop status. It's gray when it's inactive. It will turn green when it's running. On the right is your current plasma glucose. In the middle is your temp basal. The fourth icon is your insulin reservoir, and the fifth icon here is your pod age. You have 4 charts, the first of which will trace your glucose predictions over the duration of insulin action. The second chart is total insulin, which is a combination of your scheduled basal insulin, temp basal, and manual boluses. The third chart is a record of your temp basal. So all positive temp basals will be recorded as peaks, all negative temp basals will be recorded as valleys. The fourth chart is active carbs. As you use the carb entry tool on the bottom panel to enter your carbs, those will be logged in here as well. The first thing you need to do is turn on closed loop. So default is the off position. You need to turn on closed loop. If it's turned off, you are running open loop, where the app will ask you for permission before doing anything. When you turn on closed loop, the app will be automatic. The next thing you should do is add CGM. So choose Dexcom G6, enter your transmitter ID, ignore credentials, and then continue. When you change your transmitter, remember to go to the CGM menu, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and choose Delete CGM so that you can delete your old transmitter ID. And make sure to enter your new transmitter ID. And then you add pump, choose Omnipod. If you have an Orange Link with a battery in it, or a Rally Link that's running, you'll see a toggle here that says Orange Link or Rally Link. Turn on the toggle, click on continue, and follow the instructions verbatim to pair your Orange Link with your pod and to activate it. And then you enter all of your configuration settings. You can copy them from your PDM, correction range, suspend threshold, basal rates, delivery limits, insulin model, dosing strategy, carb ratios, and insulin sensitivities. Dosing strategy, BC Diabetes recommends starting with temp basal only. Stay on it for a week or 2, and then switch to automatic bolus. The difference is in how insulin is delivered to you. In temp basal, your temp basals either increased or decreased depending on your sugars. In automatic bolus, the app will give you a series of microdoses of insulin to keep your sugars under control. The automatic bolus algorithm is quite aggressive. It's good if you have frequent spikes. So the automatic bolus algorithm is quite reactive to spikes. Finally, enter your Night Scout credentials, your URL and API secret. If you are a BC Diabetes client, we can provide you with your Night Scout URL and API secret. Add account. If it's successful, you'll simply see, instead of add account, you'll see delete here. If it's not successful, you will get an error message. Now, once you've entered all your configurations, go back into your main page and wait for the gray circle to turn green. Now, sometimes you will see that your plasma glucose, instead of being in millimoles per liter, it's displayed in milligram per deciliter. If that happens, all you have to do is turn off loop completely by swiping up and then turn it back on. You'll see that milligram per deciliter has turned to millimoles per liter. Loop setup is quite simple compared to free APSX and Android APS. You will spend some time learning about carb absorption time and glycemic index through the carb entry tool. So if you click on the carb entry tool, you need to know how many grams of carbs you're eating, the food type, which is an indication of glycemic index, and absorption time. So the first food type is the lollipop or high glycemic index. If you're having a liquid high glycemic index food, we recommend using an absorption time of 30 minutes. You can change it by clicking on it. If you're having a solid high glycemic index food, 30 to 60 minutes is good. Most foods for adults will take 3 hours of absorption time, or the taco sign. Pizza, the default is 4 hours. I suggest going up to 6 hours. Now in children, the taco should be at 2 hours to start with, and then you can experiment and find out which values work best for your child. And then the pizza for children will also be 4 to 6 hours. The steepest learning curve in Loop is this page. You need to know the amount of carbs in your food, the glycemic index, and the absorption time, and that'll come through experimentation. I don't know if you can see the app, the icon that's faded out at the bottom of the app. That is your pre-meal override. I can't click it right now because it's not connected to a pod, but your pre-meal override lets you run a lower target for 1 hour before your meal. Which means, for example, if your correction range is 5 to 5 and your pre-meal override is 4 to 4, and if you have this icon turned on, for that hour you will run 4 to 4 instead of 5 to 5. So you'll run a lower target. This is your manual bolus icon. You can use this to correct a spike, or after a few hours after a meal, if you haven't reached your correction range, you can ask Loop for a recommendation. It will always give you a recommended bolus and a graph that corresponds to the effect of the recommended bolus. If you disagree with the recommendation that Loop is giving you, you can enter your own bolus amount here in the second line, and you'll see that the graph will give you a prediction accordingly. The heart is your custom override. If it's a repetitive event, you can save a custom override. If it's a non-repetitive event, you can use a one-off override. Click on custom. You can decrease the amount of insulin you need. So 10% is a 90% reduction. 200% is a 100% increase. Set your target range, your start time, and duration. Custom overrides are most useful for situations where you need more insulin, like binge eating or parties where you expect to eat a lot of food, sickness, post-surgery, and any other situation where you need more insulin. On the other end of the spectrum, you need less insulin when you're fasting or you're doing a physical activity, a prolonged physical activity. So depending on the situation, you can set your custom override. That was a quick overview. If you are doing it for your first ever time, we recommend doing it under supervision or with someone who has done it before. Installation and setup are straightforward. You'll spend most time learning about your carb entry, its absorption time and glycemic index. Otherwise, the setup is quite simple. Thank you.